I'd interrogated warlords, criminals, and false prophets. But nothing prepared me for the way she looked at me, like I was a puzzle she already solved. They brought her in bound with plasma cuffs, a shimmering suit that pulsed like liquid stars clinging to her green skin. She wasn't just alien. She was art forged in defiance. "Restore my throne," she said, her voice calm as still water. "And what's between my legs is yours." I laughed. Of course I did. Because what else does a soldier do when faced with something so absurd it feels like a joke? But she didn't blink. Didn't flinch. Just tilted her head like she was watching time fold inward. In that moment, I wasn't looking at a prisoner. I was staring at someone who had seen civilizations burn, empires rise, and gods kneel. I was the one locked in. She was the one free. And somewhere deep inside me, a voice I didn't recognize whispered, "Take the deal." Her name was Oleana. Not a designation. Not a rank. A name, ancient, whispered through stardust, etched into the ruins we still didn't understand. She had once ruled a system spanning 7 moons, 12 mining colonies, and 1 planetary capital that made Earth's strongest cities look like broken toys. Now she sat across from me in a cold, white cell aboard Earth's orbital command. No crown. No guards. No empire. Just a woman with skin like forest flame and eyes older than war. And I, Kamo, was her interrogator. That wasn't the assignment, of course. I was told to extract cooperation and neutralize any psychological resistance. But the moment I stepped into that chamber, I understood this was never going to be a mission. It was a reckoning. She studied me the way a scholar studies insects pinned to glass, curious, amused, slightly mournful. I'd spent 15 years on the battlefield. Led troops against rebels, parasites, even a rogue AI faction that tore through entire cities. But I had never felt smaller than I did under her gaze. "You don't know who you are, do you?" she asked. Her words struck harder than plasma. I ignored them, focused on the datapad. "Let's begin. Your name. Your rank. Your intentions on Earth." "My name," she said slowly, "is older than your species. My rank no longer matters. My intention?" She leaned forward, her cuffs humming against the table. "To reclaim what was stolen." I didn't flinch. "Your throne?" She smiled. "That. And something more tender. Is that where the legs part of your offer comes in? You think it was a joke?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "It wasn't." A silence filled the room, not awkward, not cold. Heavy. Like the pause before a bomb's final beep. She continued, "I ruled with balance. With fury when required. With mercy when deserved. I was betrayed not by my enemies, but by blood." Her eyes narrowed. "And now that blood drinks from my throne." I didn't care for royal politics. But Earth Command did. They thought she was a key, maybe to technology, maybe to weapons, maybe to something else entirely. I just thought she was dangerous. Until she said something I wasn't prepared to hear. "You're not fully human, Kamo." My jaw clenched. "That's a lie." "Is it?" She tilted her head. "Why do you dream in my tongue? Why does your skin burn when I'm near? Why do you hear the throne calling when it's buried deep beneath your own planet?" I didn't answer. Couldn't. That night I couldn't sleep. Every moment I closed my eyes I saw flashes, temples drowned in fire, shadows kneeling before a glowing crown, and a woman's silhouette walking away from a throne made of breath and bone. Her silhouette. Oleana. And when I finally awoke in a sweat, the same voice returned, clearer this time. "Take the deal. Restore her throne. Or everything burns." But I was Kamo. Soldier. Skeptic. Earthborn. I didn't believe in destiny. At least, not yet. I didn't go back to her cell the next day. Not by choice. Command ordered it. They thought I had established a connection, thought her words meant leverage. They didn't realize I wasn't the one holding the line anymore. I was dangling from it, inch by inch, over a truth I didn't want to see. When the door slid open, she was standing. Unshackled. Alone. How did you? She turned calm. I told them I would speak only to you. You're a prisoner. No, Kamal, she said softly. I'm the test. There was no table between us this time. Just space. Weighted and sharp. I stood tall, armored as always, but something about her gaze made the plates feel hollow. Tell me what you want. She stepped forward. You already know what I want. The throne. She nodded. But not just that. I want justice. I want to burn the lies written in my sister's name. I want the crown returned to the bloodline that never betrayed it. I frowned. You were overthrown? No, she said. I was sacrificed. Her words hung like drifting wreckage. I didn't move. Oleana looked through the viewport behind me, out toward Earth. It was meant to be shared, she said. Power between sisters. Unity between blood. But one of us broke the pact. Your sister? She nodded once. In our empire, thrones aren't inherited. They're earned. The crown accepts only one when two are bound by oath. She poisoned the ritual. She severed me from the core and took the power for herself. And Earth? She turned to me again. She fled to your planet to hide what she'd done. You shelter her unknowingly. Your governments mine her favor. They see her as divine. They don't know the price. And what does that have to do with me? Her expression didn't change, but her tone did, sharp, deliberate. You carry the blood of a pact made generations ago. Between our kind and yours. An oath buried and forgotten. Your ancestors protected my lineage during the last collapse. That's impossible. Then explain the dreams. The way the throne stirs when you approach its resting place. Explain why my mind echoes in yours without contact. I clenched my fists. Coincidence. You don't believe that. She was right. Ever since she arrived, my thoughts had unraveled. Memories I didn't own, emotions that weren't mine. Nightmares of battles I never fought. Words and languages I never studied. And every time she spoke, something inside me answered. You think I can bring your throne back? I know you can, she said. Because the throne only opens to those bound by blood and truth. I have one. You have the other. My mind spun. You said you were betrayed by blood. Why would I trust you? She moved closer. Not threatening. Not seductive. Honest. And that was somehow worse. Because I'm not asking for obedience. I'm asking for choice. I didn't respond. She placed something cold and metallic in my hand, a shard of obsidian etched with glowing silver veins. It pulsed once, then dimmed. What is this? The map to what was stolen. Coordinates. Warnings. Trials. I turned it over. What kind of trials? She gave the faintest smile. The kind no one survives alone. Before I could speak again, the door opened. General Theris stood there, unreadable. You're off the case, Kamal. Effective immediately. I opened my mouth, but he cut me off. She's being transferred. To where? Somewhere safer. I stepped forward. She hasn't even. She's a war criminal. Not your concern anymore. But Oleana didn't flinch. She simply looked at me as the guards stepped in. You've seen enough, she said quietly. Now you get to decide what to believe. They took her. I stood there, alone in the chamber where a queen had offered me everything. Truth, power, maybe even herself. Not through force, but trust. And I let her go. That night, I held the shard again. Its glow pulsed stronger this time. I thought of her words. Of her betrayal. Of the blood I might carry. And of the choice she left in my hands. I didn't know if she was telling the truth. But I knew one thing for certain. The lie she spoke against was bigger than either of us. And someone was going to bleed for it. They moved her in silence. Not a single transmission on any frequency. No ship logs. No destination. One moment she was locked beneath orbital command. The next, erased. But she had left something behind. The shard. It wasn't just coordinates. It was memory encoded in pain. The moment I closed my palm around it again, my knees buckled. A flood of light, sound, and something else, something primal, rushed through my nerves. I saw her past. I didn't dream it. I lived it. Oleana, barefoot, crowned in obsidian, walking through a crowd of kneeling masses. Her sister behind her, hands clasped, a dagger hidden beneath robes made of wind and light. Then blood. Screams. The crown falling. Her voice breaking. Her world silenced. I opened my eyes on the floor, gasping, heart pounding against ribs that no longer felt mine. My breathing didn't match the station's rhythm anymore. It followed another beat, a deeper, older thrum. The throne was calling me. I left orbit the next morning. The site was buried beneath the crust of an abandoned continent, one Earth never colonized. Too unstable, too scorched. Perfect place to hide a graveyard. My boots hit ash instead of soil. Towers pierced the sky like broken teeth, long decayed by centuries of war and silence. I followed the shard's hum, guided by vibrations more than maps. Then I saw her. Not a memory. Not a ghost. Oleana stood beneath the remains of an archway shaped like a crown split down the center. She didn't flinch when I approached. "I knew you'd come," she said without looking back. "How did you escape?" "I didn't. They let me go." "Why?" "Because someone wants this story buried. And I'm the last one who remembers it." I walked beside her. We entered the ruins. Symbols lit beneath our feet with each step, her presence unlocking something ancient, mine stabilizing it. Together, we passed barriers that should have incinerated flesh. "Is this where you were crowned?" She shook her head. "This is where I died." We stopped before a pedestal. Cracked. Blackened. Still humming with power. She touched it with 2 fingers. Light exploded outward. And again, I was inside her memories. This time I didn't just see her past. I felt it. The betrayal wasn't political. It was personal. Her sister didn't want power. She wanted to destroy the bond between humans and her kind. That alliance had been Oleana's vision. Her sister saw it as contamination. Impurity. Weakness. "You were supposed to stand with me," Oleana had said to her, in the moments before the blade. "I stood with you too long," her sister replied. Then the knife fell. And the throne screamed. I returned to my body on my knees again, sweat soaking through my collar. She hadn't moved. "You could have shown me this without pain." "I couldn't," she said softly. "You had to bleed for it, even if only inside." I stood slowly. "You loved her. She was my twin. And she destroyed everything. She thought she was saving it." Her voice cracked. Just once. For the first time, she looked fragile. I reached for her hand. Not to comfort. To understand. The moment we touched, it burned. Not with heat, but recognition. Something in her skin called something in mine. 2 parts of a broken vow drawn back together by history neither of us asked for. "You and I said slowly. "We're bound by something older than memory." She nodded. "The pact our ancestors made. It was written in blood and sealed by choice. And the throne? It will only rise again when that choice is made, freely, and together. And if I choose wrong?" She turned to face me fully now. Eyes bright. Hair alive with static. "Then both our worlds fall." We stood there, hand in hand, in the ruins of her former life. One alien. One human. And something between us, older than stars, deeper than war, began to awaken. Not love. Not yet. But something far more dangerous. Trust. They led me blindfolded through a corridor that pulsed with cold. Not from temperature, but from something older than time, etched into the metal itself. I couldn't see where we were going, but I could feel it, the silence, the gravity of unseen judgment tightening around my throat like a collar. When they removed the blindfold, the sight stole my breath. We stood beneath the black moon. It wasn't a moon, not really. More like a suspended sphere of dying stars, black as ink but alive with movement beneath its surface. It rotated slowly, casting no light, only shadows. And we were inside it. I turned toward her, Avara. Shackled, restrained, but upright. Proud. The chains at her wrists pulsed like veins, lit with red energy that wasn't human. Her skin shimmered with sweat and scars. Her eyes met mine without flinching. "State your allegiance," barked a voice behind me. The tribunal. A dozen figures, featureless, draped in fabrics that shifted like smoke. They weren't individuals. They were judgment itself. And they weren't here for fairness. They wanted a show. I spoke slowly. "I came for truth. Not sides." A hiss rippled through the chamber. Avara laughed, short, broken, defiant. "Then you came to the wrong moon." They demanded a trial. Not of law. Of endurance. Of bond. Of loyalty. They brought out the trident of reversion, an ancient weapon carved from the bones of a dead star. I was to hold it, strike her once, and if our bond was false, if she'd lied to me, she'd burn from within. If not, I would. "No." I stepped back. "You can't ask me." "You will." The voice again. Unrelenting. Cold. Avara didn't plead. Didn't blink. "Do it." Her voice cracked something inside me. I stepped forward. My hands trembled as I gripped the weapon. It weighed more than mass. It carried memory. Her memory. My own. Threads of things I hadn't lived yet. I swung. A gentle arc, enough to touch, not destroy. The second it brushed her shoulder, light exploded between us. Agony. Mine. I dropped to my knees as fire licked through my veins, rewriting my blood with hers. Every secret, every wound, every time she was tortured, caged, hunted, I saw it. Lived it. When the light faded, I lay gasping. They were silent. Avara knelt beside me, unshackled now. "You didn't flinch," she whispered. "You burned instead." I wanted to speak. I couldn't. She turned toward the tribunal, eyes blazing. "Now you kneel." They didn't move. She raised the trident, now glowing red. "Then burn like he did," she said. The chamber exploded into screams. We fled, our fates sealed beneath the black moon. But as the stars blurred past us in retreat, I already knew this wasn't the end of the trial. It was just the part where we'd finally started running, together. The storm outside the temple of the veiled core raged like a wounded beast. Red lightning carved the sky open in jagged arcs. The ground shook beneath each pulse. But inside, there was only breath, hers, mine, and something else. The throne was awakening. It wasn't made of metal. It was carved from obsidian bone, humming with dormant energy that recognized us long before we touched it. The air around it rippled with the weight of lineage, of memories not our own, voices trapped in stone waiting to be heard again. Oliana stopped just short of the throne's base. Her spine straightened. Her hair lifted slightly as if gravity itself hesitated around her. "This is where I was meant to bleed," she said, barely above a whisper. "And me?" I asked, not knowing why the tremble in my voice made her eyes soften. "You were never meant to come," she replied. "But the throne chose you when it turned against her. Your sister. My reflection. My failure." She stepped onto the platform. A line of silver fire surged beneath her feet. It didn't hurt her. It embraced her. She turned back to me. "You must place your hand beside mine. No throne accepts a solitary claim. It needs harmony. Balance. You said it was yours." She smiled without joy. "It was. But the universe rewrote the code the day I met you." I hesitated. "What happens if we do it?" "We rule. Together. Across galaxies. Through war, through peace, through..." She stopped. "Through what?" I asked. Through love, Kamo. And I fear that more than war. My heart raced. Her voice, steady, cracked open in that moment. Not as a queen. Not as a soldier. But as something neither of us were trained to be. Vulnerable. I took the step forward. The second our hands touched the throne, the platform collapsed. Not physically, but into memory. Into a shared vision neither of us controlled. We stood in a world long dead. Skies torn open. Mountains hollowed out by weapons that melted bone. Oleana stood next to me, not in her body but as thought, image, sound. This was the price of solitude, she said. When the throne is claimed by one, the rest fall. It needs two souls. Two species. Two truths. We saw versions of ourselves, dying in different timelines, burned by betrayal, separated by fear. But always drawn back together. The throne wasn't power. It was balance incarnate. We snapped back. Our hands were still joined. But the throne had changed. It had split into two. Left and right. Equal. Alive. The ancient energy surrounded us. Not hostile. Not mechanical. Conscious. You are chosen, the throne spoke in thought. But only if one bows to the other. I turned to Oleana. I'll kneel. She grabbed my wrist. No. You bow, we lose balance. It must be her. And then she did something I never expected. She dropped to one knee. Before me. A queen, once betrayed, once broken, once burned alive in memory, offering herself not as ruler, but as equal. I offer the throne, she said, and everything I carry within me. Not as reward. Not as bargain. But as truth. My throat tightened. You don't have to. I do, she whispered. Because when I tried to rule alone, I lost everything. When I tried to fight without feeling, I lost myself. But when I touched you, I found something even my empire never gave me. She stood slowly. You didn't just awaken my throne, Kamo. You awakened me. We placed our hands again. The throne surged upward. It didn't crown us with gold. It didn't burn us into ash. It pulsed once, and then wrapped us in living starlight. Our memories joined. Past, present, pain, joy. I felt her childhood. Her exile. Her shame. And she felt mine, my battles, my doubts, my quiet hunger to belong. And in the silence that followed, we kissed. Not out of lust. Out of survival. Out of recognition. Out of something unspoken that had waited across lifetimes to finally break through. When we pulled apart, the throne had vanished. In its place, two rings of orbiting light circled us. They will come for us, she said. Your world. Mine. Let them, I replied. She reached out, brushing my chest. When you took the throne, you gave me more than power. And you, I said, took something I didn't know was mine to give. They called her a goddess long before I ever saw her bleed. The skies cracked open as fire descended, not from worships this time, but from reverence. Oleana stood on the obsidian platform, surrounded by warriors who chanted her name like prayer, like thunder. I wasn't among them. I stood below, broken, aching, unworthy. But her eyes found mine. Across legions, through smoke and applause, her gaze didn't search for followers. It searched for me. I remembered our first touch, how her skin didn't just carry warmth, but memory. I'd felt her loneliness then. Her centuries in orbit, her exile, her silence. And now, with the throne hers again, she should have cast me aside like every earthling before me. But instead, she descended. They gasped as she stepped off her dais, her royal crest still smoldering from the ceremonial flame. I didn't move. Couldn't. Knees weak, thoughts spiraling, heart-threatening rebellion. She approached. Slowly. Deliberately. Each footfall louder than any battle drum. Kamo, she said, her voice breaking the silence of millions. Will you stand beside me, not beneath me? I blinked. She didn't want worship. She wanted home. Her fingers reached for mine. Not commanding, not demanding, just open. Soft. My hand met hers. The chant stopped. The wind stalled. Time dared not interfere. "You're not like them," she whispered, forehead resting against mine. "You never tried to control me. That's why I want you." I whispered her name like a secret, like a vow. "And you never made me feel small, even when you towered like a storm." Her throne waited behind her. But she turned her back to it. A goddess choosing a man? No, an exile choosing a home. A queen discarding legacy for love. We left the platform hand in hand. And the stars, for once, didn't weep, they watched. Because sometimes the universe doesn't need saving. It just needs someone who listens. ChatGPT can make mistakes.